right.
Hola,
Hola.
comadre.
How are you today?
I'm great. I just got done with the gym and I'm still kind of sweating. I took a shower, but I'm trying to recover and get back to neutral. So here we are. I'm
Uh-huh.
very excited for today's episode. How are you?
I'm doing good. Let's just admire Jenny real quick. She's blessing us with her presence. She just walks out of the shower with curled hair. I'm just like, wow, Jenny. We we
Well,
walk out of the shower differently.
I did not shampoo. I did curl this earlier, so it's not natural.
Yeah,
I
I'm
gotta
just
be
like,
real,
wow.
but I wish I would be like,
I was just like, wow. She's like, let me go take a shower real
in the
quick.
name
And
of
I'm like,
today's
you got
episode,
ready like that fast? Okay, so tell us about today's episode, Jenny, because we're walking in with like a lot of drama today. So tell us.
yes. Okay, I'm so excited for today's episode. Today's episode was inspired by my coworker. Well, I don't work at that location anymore, but Hiliani, if you're seeing this, thank you because you inspired a very fun episode. So, my coworker, she is also Mexican, and one time we got on the topic of telenovelas, and my God, we were talking for hours, dude. Like, I felt so bad because that day that we were talking about it, she was supposed to go home earlier than me, and I was just yapping and yapping and yapping. And then finally she finished up like her closing side work, and then she's like walking to her car. And then whenever I got to the car, I was like, "Hey, one more thing." And then we started talking for like another 10 to 15 minutes, and it's like cold outside, and she's like, "I need to go home. Let me go home." So, yeah, I'm very excited. I love telenovelas. I grew up with my grandma watching them. My mom actually didn't watch them that much, like, when
Mm-hmm.
I was growing up. She did watch General Hospital, though, so we did bond over that, just American soap opera. I guess, like, when I got older, I was wanting to start watching them more, especially as I started taking more interest in learning Spanish. So the
Mm-hmm.
very first telenovela that I saw, I'm just going to start calling them novelas because that's what my grandma calls them, and I get tongue twisted when I say telenovela. It's a tongue twister. Telenovela, telenovela, telenovela. Okay, anyways, can y'all tell I still have some pre-workout in my system? I'm a chatty Cathy today. Okay. Anyways, my first one was Maria la del Barrio. So,
Dude, same.
yeah.
That's funny. I'm like, girl.
That's so exciting. So yeah, so that brings us to here today. Val did put some notes together for us today, so I'm going to let you take over and guide us through this episode.
All right, so I'm gonna scroll down to the notes and I'm seeing Maria la del Barrio. So I will insert a picture here so you know what we are talking about. Now, Thalia, she is a Mexican pop star. Think like Britney Spears. Thalia was
Icon.
like actress, singer, like she would talk show host. Like Thalia was like the it girl. She's really gorgeous. She's such a good energy. Loved her. So in this novela, because she's done so many, this is Maria la del Barrio. And it's funny because Maria, like, I'm just like, Maria is just a recurring name, but whatever. And like, la del Barrio is like Maria of the hood. I'm like, okay. So Maria la del Barrio. But basically, she is a very sweet, loving girl. And she is poor. She is so poor. And I think one of her jobs is like she works like in the trash. Like she picks up trash or like cleans up the park. Like her job is she does things with trash. That's
And if
terrible.
you've
But I
never
think she keeps.
watched telenovelas, like one thing that they are is stereotypical. Why was that the choice? That's just I had to throw that in there.
Yes, so this is like Mexican Cinderella. Like she is from the
Yeah.
hood. Like in
She
Cinderella, she
literally
lives in a
has like
beautiful
dirt on her
castle.
face.
Yeah, it's not funny. So like in Cinderella, like she's the maid, but she lives in a castle. Here she is poor and she lives in a shack. This is not funny, but
And her parents
yes, she
passed,
falls
right?
in. Yeah, her parents pass and she lives with her grandparents. So she works to sustain her grandparents and herself. So it is like a really pretty story. Like her grandparents are old and she like lives to, help them out. And basically what happens is she falls in love with a rich man. I don't know what happens with her or how she becomes rich or like maybe she marries into someone being rich, but I know she goes from like being dirt poor and like sweeping the streets to like being
Yeah.
like in a beautiful dress and a gown.
Well, I remember, so I can't remember his name. I know he has 2 names, like Jose Manuel or something like that.
Juan
But
Antonio.
yeah, something very, like, exotic sounding. I just remember in the show, her parents had passed away, and so she was living with either her grandma or her Nina, I can't remember. But, the person who was her sole caretaker, she ends up passing away too, and then I guess they had a really good relationship with the local priest, and, he talked to this rich family that he knew, and he was like, "Hey, like, would you guys be willing to take her in, because she literally doesn't have anybody." So she starts off, I think, as I could be wrong, not the maid. Let me look it up. Let's find out. Or maybe, let's see here.
Yeah, well, Jenny, like, refreshes our memory. I do remember at some point, like, her grandparents die, which in a sense a little bit kind of helps out because then they're removed from the story and then it's just her and then she like becomes a little bit more elevated. I do actually remember this thing particularly. We go from like a little bit of a very like naive and I don't want to say illiterate, but like a very naive and just like
Yes.
everybody is a good person
Like, she
to like
doesn't have very
becoming
good etiquette.
yes, to becoming a very refined person. I don't want to say jaded, but she becomes more like, well, I see how it is. Like, I see that you're not very nice or kind, or I see that, like it's kind of like a transformation where it's just, it's a little bit different from like, let's say the Princess Diaries, where she goes from like being this like teenager and she gets like, pretty and her life just
Yes.
gets better. Like, she becomes pretty and then her life becomes like more dramatic because now she's like with the elites. Now she's kind of
Right.
like with the elites and they see how they're already like cutthroat.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was like, whoa, this is crazy, girl. This is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked it up, and it turns out she wasn't taken in as a maid. She was just taken in under somebody's wing who is the dad of the family, and he takes her in like a daughter basically. And he, doesn't expect her to just like live there without like, putting in her fair piece and stuff like that. Like, she has to be part of the family.
Hmm.
But one of the plot lines is that the person who is the actual maid, Carlota, she despises Maria because she was just taken in with, you know what I mean? Like, Carlota has to work and like earn her way,
Hmm.
and because she's the maid, whereas Maria, in her eyes, just gets it easy. You know what I mean? But one
Hmm.
thing is that Maria is humble. She's so thankful for this family bringing her in. But then along the way, she falls in love with their son. So their son, the person that I said had 2 names, his name is Luis Fernando. And he's played by very famous actor. What's his name? Fernando Colunga. That's who it is.
Okay.
So yeah, so she falls in love with him, and y'all have all seen the meme of the villain Soroya, where she's like, she walks in and she's like, and then she's like, something about the crippled girl, and then she like goes in trying to like stab this little girl, which is like a character that's like way later in the story, and she ends up accidentally stabbing Maria's son, but that's like way down the line. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So this is a crazy story.
Yeah.
As you can
Yeah.
see. But yeah, Soroya is, Val and I were talking about this a little bit before the episode. Soroya, the villain, she is actually related to the family that takes Maria in. And I don't know why this is like a really weird common thing in a lot of telenovelas, especially from the 80s, where it was common for like cousins to be getting together. Because apparently Soroya and Luis Fernando have had relations before. And he kind of just got bored of her and like left her off in the dust. But then as time goes on, he falls in love with Maria, which ends up causing the jealousy that kind of turns her into like the crazy villain. She was already pretty like crazy and like mean before. But as soon as Maria came in, that crazy went up 10 notches. And then I remember Maria ends up having a baby with Luis Fernando. And then she ends up going crazy. And I can't remember why she went crazy, but she not accidentally. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I guess in one of her crazy episodes, she gives her son away and then he gets raised by some other people. It's wild, y'all. You need to watch this show if you haven't
Yeah,
already.
this is crazy. Yeah, I was that was crazy. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, Jenny, what is another soap opera? You guys should definitely watch this one, but Jenny, what is next?
Well, before we get into other examples of which ones we like, do you want to talk a little bit about basically what novelas taught us? We have some notes here. It looks like, and I agree with this, honestly. I feel like I kind of have some controversial opinions, but I feel like telenovelas definitely gave us some high standards and then some low standards. I feel like in some ways it gave us high standards because it was like a lot of passion, a lot of like romance, a lot of the idea that there was something bigger and better out there because there were a lot of tropes of like starting really poor and then getting rich kind of a thing. But then there was also a lot of toxic ones,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like suffering, a lot of just survival mode, actually a lot of colorism, unfortunately,
Yes.
especially the novelas in the 80s. There wasn't that many people that were cast that were just diverse in general. So that's something to highlight there for sure.
Just adding to Jenny, novelas were definitely fun entertainment for sure. I remember I would come home from school and my mom she'd be cooking and she'd have like a novela on. So I would watch it with her, or, sometimes when you don't have cable, like those are some of the channels that you can pick up. Maybe because like we live close to Mexico, like we're a borderland state, we're next to Texas and next to the border. So those were the channels that we could pick up. So by default, we would watch what was entertaining. So we would watch novelas. But definitely, I remember the drama. Most definitely, I remember as the colorism, like a lot of the people on the show were very light skinned or were not like you didn't see a lot of diversity for sure. What else? Very dramatic for sure.
A
There
lot of
is a lot of
slapping.
poverty in Mexico. Yes, a lot of slapping. Yes, the physical abuse. I'm like, why is everybody slapping each other? Like, what is going on?
Or not just
Um,
physical abuse, but like and we'll get to this specific telenovela later on. But I remember cuz I like to rewatch a lot of these so that I can brush up on my Spanish, and I'm most recently rewatching Ruby. And I used to think when I first watched it, I was like, "Oh my god, like the guys in this are so hot and this and that and da da da," and they are, but the way that they like speak to the women, and there's a lot of like, I don't know, I think back then I thought it was just passion, but like one of the characters who's like in love with Ruby and he's supposed to be the good guy, sometimes he'll like shake her and I'm like, dude,
there.
you don't have to do that. Like just like, keep your hands
Mm-hmm.
to yourself. This could get escalated really quickly. So I don't know. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, definitely some of that. I guess it's very impressionable, especially as a kid. But yeah, definitely going back as an adult, I actually I think I'll watch them for like entertainment's sake and just to like make fun of them. Like, oh my gosh, that's so not real. But yeah, it was definitely like you're just like your jaw is dropping. You're like, what? Like when you think it can't get worse, you're like, it does get worse. The
Yeah.
writers, man. Okay, so what do we got next?
So it looks like the next one here is Marimar. I never watched this one, but I know there was an unofficial like trilogy of the Tres Marias. So it was Maria la del Barrio,
Mhm.
Marimar, and then Maria Mercedes, and they were
Mm.
all played by Thalia.
Mhm.
I don't remember the plot for Maria Mercedes, but Marimar, all I remember is that she grows up by the ocean. I don't know if you've seen this one, Val.
Mhm. Yes, so this is actually one of my favorites. So Jenny knows, and I think I've mentioned it. I lived in one of the states, just like the US is vast, and there's Ohio, Wyoming, California, Texas, and each state is different. When I was living in Veracruz, I was living by the coast. So, the attire was just different. If you think Hawaii, like they're not wearing coats, they're not wearing jeans, they're wearing shorts, they're wearing, sandals, they're wearing, bikinis. Like some guys are shirtless, so it was very much the vibe. Like that was the vibe, and that's where I was living. And then Marimar came out, and she is tan, she is Latin, she lives by the beach, and she also comes from like very humble origins. Like her house is not some like really fancy place by the beach. She lives kind of in a shack, like kind of same story with like Maria la del Barrio, but now she's in a beach. I really liked her vibe. I was like, am I poor? Like I'm like, is this what this novela is telling me? Like what is going on? But I liked her. Like she wore seashells. I was like, she was like a pretty little mermaid, but she ran around like barefoot. So again, she's like a naive girl. She just loves life. This rich man falls in love with her and she's like, marry me. And I think you guys might have to just like fact check me in the notes, but I think she marries into like a rich family and they make fun of her because the family like they wear high heels and like nice couture dresses and they speak differently and she like has flat feet and she never like wears shoes and like even the fact that she's tan is like she's out in the sun and like they make fun of her color and
That's
they're like, well, you're
crazy.
not white like us. Yeah, it is. So we're just like I'm
And
watching
that is
all of this and I'm like, am I spending too much time in the sun? Like I'm
that's
just watching all
sad. That
of
makes
this
me
like
so sad, especially
yes.
because nowadays, like, being tan is so much more, like, sought after, and it's so pretty.
Mhm.
I don't know. That makes me sad. Okay, keep going. I wanna know more.
Yeah, and then like she has this wavy hair and she kind of has to go this transformation where like her hair is straight and she wears the high heels and she becomes again more eloquent. But yeah, that was the novela. I don't remember what else other than like it had a really pretty scenery.
Yeah.
She gets like a beautiful glow up. She gets some sort of revenge and yeah, I don't remember much other than like I like the vibe. Like that like this was definitely like I was like I like this one.
Yeah.
Um
Very beachy vibes.
mhm.
The next one, let's see here. Okay, I just talked about Ruby a second ago, so we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth. So this one's one of my favorite ones. I feel like, and y'all have to let me know what you think. I feel like the girl who plays Ruby is basically Megan Fox but Latina.
Yes.
They
That
look so similar, and with red hair too.
mhm.
She has the best genes. She's so beautiful. But basically, this one is about a girl who grows up poor and she's friends with a girl who is rich. Her friend who is rich does have, I can't remember if it's an injury or a surgery that messed up her leg or something like that. One of her legs, she has this brace on it and she has a hard time walking. And it opens up with them talking to each other. And this friend, let me think what her name was. I think her name's Maribel. And this is actually kind of crazy because this show is based in the early 2000s. So it's kind of following the rise of technology. But Maribel is starting a relationship with a man that she met online. And so he's about to come visit her and a lot of people are telling her, like, no, like, he's probably not real. Like, don't get your hopes up. He probably doesn't look the way that he says he looks. So then he comes in and he ends up being handsome as heck. It's Sebastian Rui, or I don't know if it's Rui or Ruli, however you pronounce it. So he comes in and he's handsome and he's an architect and he's so sweet. And they basically start their relationship because I guess he was living in New York for a while and he came back to Mexico to do some business and obviously to meet the girl that he was talking to online. He ends up proposing to her, and Ruby is like kind of starting to get jealous. But then it turns out he has a best friend who is equally as handsome and he is in the process of becoming a doctor. And this character's name
Mhm.
is Alejandro.
Ooh.
And so Ruby and Alejandro start dating. So the jealousy of her friend subsides. Everything's working out. Everyone's all in their places that they want to be in. But then Ruby finds out that Alejandro is not yet rich. Alejandro is still finishing up school, and so he's living in a very modest apartment, and he's not going to have his money for a good few years. And she gets
Mhm.
pissed at him. Honestly, as I've been rewatching this, I'm like, girl, it's really not that serious. Like, you could have just waited a while, but whatever. We wouldn't have had the novela if we didn't have the conflict, right? So then she gets mad at him and she breaks up with him. And her um point of view is that he lied to her, that he misled her, and that he made her think that he was somebody that he's not. When that wasn't the case at all, he just didn't have time to bring it up, is basically kind of how it went. So then once she kind of pushes him off to the curb, she starts going back to being jealous of her friend and she starts messing with their relationship. And I haven't gotten too far in my rewatch yet, so the details are a little fuzzy for me up to this point. But what I do remember is that eventually she does successfully break up Maribel and her guy, which I think the character's name is Hector. And Ruby marries Hector. And Hector is handsome, and again, he's a really good guy, but it's just not the same love match as it is with Alejandro. So then they get married. Ruby is like enjoying her wealth, enjoying the fact that she's living a rich life now. But then Alejandro finally becomes rich because his doctor money starts coming in. So then once she starts seeing him again and seeing the life that she could have led, she starts kind of getting torn about like what she wants to do. And this girl is just toxic. Like she's just messing with so many different hearts.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then I can't remember. I think Alejandro gets married to somebody and then Ruby causes like an accident where that girl ends up dying. I can't remember. It's
Oh
been
my
so
god.
long. So I need to finish my rewatch again. But yeah, crazy story. That one's one of my favorites.
Yes.
And it is very similar to Teresa, which I have not
Mhm.
finished. So I don't know if you want to take over this one, Val. Have you watched Teresa?
I've watched bits and pieces of Teresa, but both of these, it's very similar like archetypes. I think in, I don't want to say in Mexican culture, but I think they like this made lots of money and it was good. Let's make another one. It's kind of like the Avengers. Like this was so good. Let's make another one.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like that same like toxic story. I feel like I learned a lot of like mean girl behavior in this. I was like, okay, but these girls are not humble at all. Like where Marimar, she has a very soft like upbringing and she kind of carries that and she remains humble. These girls, like I remember in one of the scenes, like she's getting dressed for school and she's wearing like this super like bodycon like tight dress and she's doing her nails and like the sister and the mom are like, well, why are you dressing like that? And she's like, because I'm gonna get a rich husband and I need to dress good and I'm not gonna be poor for the rest of my life like you guys. She's just so mean. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I could never say that to my mom. I'm like, I could never. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I would have gotten hit.
So she was just mean. Like, yes. Mom would be like, I own all this. This is like, she was just so mean. Also, the fact that like with Marimar, a lot of the story was based around like there was a love interest, and the people that were making things hard for her was like the stepmom or the sister or the ex. Like Marimar was making life hard for everyone. It's like she was the villain. Like it wasn't people
Marimar
making life
or
hard for her.
Teresa?
Marimar, like where Marimar, like people made things hard for her, and
Oh, I see.
Teresa and Ruby, they made life hard for everyone. It's like, no,
Yeah,
girl,
they were
you are
the
the problem.
what's it called? Not the protagonist. It's like a specific word.
The
It's
antagonist?
like the leading antagonist or something like that, where they're the main character,
Yeah.
but they're the villain. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, man, that was bad.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like this is where I saw a lot of like gold digging and like it really didn't care where the chemistry was or like who she liked more. It was about the money and who was gonna get the money first. Because both of these guys were really nice. This guy's like, I'm studying to be a doctor. And she's like, I'm studying to be rich today. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, just like, whoa.
Yeah. They needed it
So
right
that's what
that
I
second too. It was like crazy. They had to be rich like
yeah,
right then and
so
there.
yeah, so if I learned anything from this novella was like be wary of like gold diggers or like I guess what I learned and I guess I mean I became a psychologist so it's like if they only talk to you when they need something then they're not there to be your friend, they're there for your resources. And I feel like that's like a pretty important thing I've learned. It's like when I hear from friends, if they talk to me on a daily or like, how are you? Like, that's how I know it's like, all right, it's real. But if they only call me when they need help or when they need something or to borrow or ask for, then it's like, you just care about my resources. Okay, it's not me, it's what I have. I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. I don't know. What else, Jenny?
Yeah. And I mean, those are good life lessons to take in as well, too, because it really does happen.
Mhm.
I was gonna say something funny that I've noticed about these telenovelas is, well, and so if you are somebody who's never watched them, they're different from American soap operas because American soap operas just go
Mhm.
on forever. American soap operas, you get an episode Monday through Friday, well, every single weekday, and then you don't get an episode on the weekend, and then it starts over, and it literally just keeps going till the end of time. Like I said, my mom, she watches General Hospital. I think the show started back in like the 80s and it's been going to this day. So it just keeps
Grey's
going.
Anatomy.
Whereas,
Grey's Anatomy.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. Whereas novelas, it's a set story. So it's going to have a beginning and an end. There are not multiple seasons. However, there's a lot of episodes. I think there's like 180 episodes usually, or 200. And so it's going to go on for a few months. And then once it's over, it's over. So a lot of the actors are recycled in the different telenovelas, which Sebastian Rulli, he is also the one of the main guys, and it's funny because it's the same plot as Ruby basically, and he's basically the same guy. He ends up being the rich guy that carries the girl to the resources, and then she figures out that she doesn't love him, so then it causes a conflict of interest and like figuring out who she wants to be with. But the main character in Teresa is Angelique Boyer, which they are actually married in real life. I don't know if you knew that.
I did
Yeah.
not.
I'm like what a goal. Like they're both hot. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I guess let me see here. I'm going to pivot real quick. This one's not next on our list, but since we're talking about Sebastián Rulli, I want to talk about Lo que la vida me robó because that is another telenovela that him and his wife Angelique Boyer are in. And that one, again, is kind of a similar concept. All I remember for that one, and it's a really good novela. So, the main character, from what I know, I think she's pretty humble. I could be wrong from the beginning. And she is in love with this man who like, the stars kind of just go out of line for them. Their love story is really pretty and they are wonderful to each other, but then for some reason she gets kidnapped. Hold on, let me pull up
Dang.
the plot. Let me pull it up. La vida.
One thing
Okay.
I will say about the men in novelas is I love their names. Like that is one thing I do like about
Yeah.
names in Spanish and Mexico. It'll be like Antonio Banderas or like Sebastián de la
Yeah.
Cruz. It's like, oh
Antonio
my God, who
Banderas.
is this guy? I'm like, what? I'm like, whoa. But I don't feel the same way about women. I'm like, I don't care who you are. But like the
Yeah.
men, the men, I'm like, what's your name? I don't even care what they look like. I just like the way it sounds. I'm like, wow, I like that.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's a good
Yeah, it
name.
just rolls
Yes.
off the tongue.
Hmm.
Okay, I found the plot here. In the
Okay.
town of Agua Azul, Campeche, there is a young woman from a privileged background named Montserrat. Dude, isn't that like isn't that the name of like a yeast infection medicine? Montserrat?
I think yeah.
I think it is.
Monostat. Monostat.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a choice. That's a choice. Montserrat. Okay. Whose mother, Graciela, manipulates her for her own gain in order to maintain their social standing. Her family is bankrupt, which is why Montserrat does everything her mother commands. Although Montserrat has been engaged to Sebastián de y Casa, since her teens, she cheats on him with Jose Luis, a man from the lower classes who belongs to the military. So basically what I remember is she was already in love with Jose Luis. And then I guess her family like set her up with Sebastian, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
And then but it's weird because I remember there being like a kidnapping situation where like she did not want to go. She was refusing to go and they were like, "Well, sorry girl, you're coming with us anyways because your parents said you had to." So then she goes and lives with
Hmm.
him and this guy like traps her in the room, like he doesn't let her leave, like he doesn't care, like he's just very rough and like mean to her. And then as time goes on, it's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast scenario where like she starts to slowly fall in love with him, and then for some reason the guy that she was in love with before, Jose Luis, he goes to jail. I think somebody frames him. So then he's in jail for a few years and then he gets released. And by the time he gets released, she's finally fully in love with Sebastian. So then that's where
Mm.
the main conflict is. And she's trying to figure out like who she wants to stay with. Yeah, crazy one. That one's a really good one. But
Mm.
I've yapped enough. Do you want to talk about La Reina del Sur, which is next on our list?
Sure. Dang, I didn't even know that one existed. Okay, so this one, I have issues with this one, okay? So a lot of the novelas that we've talked about, it's usually like a love interest and people are usually marrying up or down. I've also been watching like a lot of like Korean K-pop or K-dramas or even just like anime where like sometimes you have like someone that's like of a higher status and they want to marry down. Like they fall in love with the guy in the military, but they're like, not high enough up in the food chain so they can be married. It's like a different kind of like love story. And I do see like the cultural part, so then I analyze like the Mexican novelas and it's like poor women trying to marry up or like women trying to use men's resources or women that are actually genuinely in love, but then they're in like some elitist class and the people are mean. So I was like, those were kind of like the concepts. La Reina del Sur, I don't think this is a love story. No, I don't think so. La Reina del Sur
No, it's
is
like a
like
woman
about a
empowerment,
girl. Yes,
but
it's like a
crazy.
girl boss. This is crazy. She is a mobster and hot. She
Yeah,
is hot. She is sexy. She has a gun and she will use it. And she's
she
about
has a
making
gun.
money. Yes, like this girl, you don't mess with her. And I like it, but also like it
It's
did
kind of toxic still.
this it's still kind of toxic, yes. It also kind of goes into like glamorizing just I don't want to say drug use because it's
The
they don't really show
cartels.
drug use, but glamorizing the cartels. And so that's my biggest issue with this novela is yes, girl empowerment, yes, girl boss, yes, but I don't really like that it kind of dives into like the cartels. And then also El Chapo,
Yeah.
like he totally had a crush on her and then like
Yes,
he went to
the
jail and he
actress.
was like, oh, go ahead.
He met with her. Have you seen that documentary?
I haven't, but I will. But I know he's like,
You
come
need
visit
to.
me. And like,
Yes. So Kate del Castillo, who plays the main character in La Reina del Sur, she was dating what's that famous director? Let me look it up. I keep saying that. Who did Kate del Castillo meet? I think it's on
also, disclaimer.
Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like, again, these are actors, are just doing a job. Like, it's not real. So, like, I think she's a great, fabulous actress. Like, love her. But I don't think she knew what she was in for, like, in the portrayal. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
she knew that El Chapo was going to be calling her, like, hey, mamacita,
Yeah.
like, come
Yeah.
visit me.
Yeah. So, okay. So I looked it up. So I don't think she was officially dating Sean Penn, but she was like kind of non exclusively dating him. And I guess she put a tweet out because she was trying to say something to Trump because I don't think she's Trump's biggest fan. And whenever she was tweeting about it, she made a comparison to El Chapo. So then El Chapo like found a way to get connected with her and he was like, "Hey, like come visit me." And then Sean Penn, the guy who she was kind of seeing, he caught wind of this and he was like, "Yeah, let's make it happen." And she was like, "What? Why? What do you mean?" And so there's this
Mhm.
documentary on Netflix that I watched where she details the entire thing and she talks about how she got there cuz they blindfolded her and they like drove her to wherever he was located because they didn't want her to know where he lived. She had a conversation with him and she took a picture with him and Sean Penn and then she left and she made it out safely, but she talks about the experience and obviously she was very, very scared. It's a really interesting documentary, so you should totally watch it. Um,
Okay, I
yeah.
will. I will. My curiosity is piqued, actually.
You definitely. No, you need to watch it. Let's talk about the plot for La Reina del Sur. So basically, the main character who Kate del Castillo plays, she is with this guy who is a very nice man, but she doesn't know what he does for a living. All she knows is that he's pretty well off, but he doesn't really say much. And then one day, something happens to him and he leaves her a burner phone. And he's basically like, hey, if you have this burner phone and if you received this message, it's because I am no longer here. Unfortunately, you have now been implicated and you need to take measures to go to safety because well, it's weird because he was dead already, so I don't know why they were using her as a pawn, but for some reason she was still valuable to some people. So she ends up having to flee the country and she ends up going to Spain. And then when she goes to
Mm.
Spain, the people who got her there are still part of the cartel. So she ends up having connections to them still. She's trying to figure out what to do. And at first, she takes a modest job, but like she's not really able to make ends meet. So then, as time goes on, she starts like getting really business savvy. And then she starts running a cartel in Spain. And actually, it's super interesting because I did not realize, typical American here, I did not realize the geography of how close Spain was to Morocco. And so she actually does a lot of drug runs on the little piece of water between Spain and Morocco. And then it's cool because she like meets a lot of Moroccan people. So you do see a lot of Arabic being spoken in the show. And then at some point she ends up in jail. And then she like meets somebody who becomes a business partner. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story, but good show. I do agree though, it is sad how it's like, I feel like kind of romanticizing that cartel thing. It's like she could have been a girl
Yes.
boss, but why did she have to choose that business,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I don't know. That's just my two
Yes.
cents.
Yes. No, I completely agree. Also, like there are a few things from the show and I mean, man, I feel like I'm like, am I opening up right now? I feel like this show is interesting because like when you become implicated, it's like I'm not trying to glamorize the cartel at all because it's like, well, if they see somebody that's valuable or you see you're not complying, it's like, okay, we're just gonna take your mom and now you're gonna listen. So it's like the fact that she became implicated, I'm like, yeah, that could actually happen. It's like, hey, like we're just gonna steal your girlfriend and now maybe you listen. So it's like by intimidation. Also, in some regions, like the cartels are kind of seen like Robin Hoods, like, well, the government is withholding money
Yeah.
and the government doesn't do anything for me, but the cartel protects us and protects our businesses. So just cartel culture, is that a thing? CC, cartel culture? I don't know.
Yeah.
This what is it? Novella is so good. It's so juicy. I feel like it's a very addictive, like you're like, but it's
Mhm.
also like, dang, that's I don't
A
know,
lot of
teen. I don't know.
conversation to be had. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, it's one of the few ones that did get a second season because now that once we started crossing the 2010s, I feel like season twos started becoming a little bit more common in novelas. It's not like a thing where it's like season three, season four, or anything like that for all of them. But a lot of them 10 years would go by and they're like, hey, like, let's continue this story. So I did start watching a few episodes of those, but I never finished it just because the time that I was watching it, I was watching a lot of cartel stuff. I was watching Narcos and I was just getting kind of tired of
Mm,
it. Or I was watching a lot of money laundering shows like Ozark, and I was just like, like, I'm just kind of
mm,
bored of that specific plot line. So maybe one day I'll come back to it.
mm-hmm.
Any thoughts before we go to our next one? Or is that it on
I
the
am
well,
good.
no, we do. We have Rebelde. You tell us about that one because I never watched that one.
Okay. Okay, so Rebelde. Rebelde was definitely the demographic was teenagers. This did have like some love stories, some crushes, but think like High School Musical, but edgy and punk and Mexican. Because High School Musical was Disney and it
High
was
School Musical.
cute and the musical Rebelde was a whole brand. They toured, they did concerts, like
It
they
was
were
like the
putting on
MTV
music.
version.
Yes, but this was eyeliner and punk and hair dye. This was I like this one. I feel like this one low-key inspired. I don't want to say a lot of my fashion, but I'll give you some like cultural background. So in Mexico you have the public school and the public school is public and it's I don't want to say government ran, but it's public, it's government funded. And then you have private school. Now private school usually is thought of as like being better because you get higher quality education because it's this where like a lot of like diplomats and like CEOs. Like this is where they want to put their children because they're going to be surrounded by more intellectual people or like better ran schools, the curriculum, whatever. So these kids are in like kind of, I don't want to say like a boarding school, but they got their cute like uniform on, like, but also they're like rebellious. It's like they're trying to rebel against like their parents and they're trying to be edgy and like they'll dye their hair. And I feel like
Like
this was just
style
kind of
their
like a
uniform.
moment for, yes, yes. So this was definitely like something that was just more not traditional, not like listen, be good. It was like find yourself and who you are and don't listen to authority and like live your best life. And like like in one of the episodes, like one of the guys has the motorcycle and the mom is like so upset and he's like, I'm gonna live my life. And yeah, I liked it. It was a vibe. It was a vibe for sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have anything
I need to
else
watch
other
it.
than
It
like I
sounds
dyed my
really
hair red.
good.
Yeah. So
All
if you
right.
liked High School Musical, this is it,
Sorry.
but
I
edgy.
think there's a delay. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
No, you're good.
All right. Do we want to move on to the next one?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So we can't forget about La Rosa de Guadalupe, which is
Yes.
a different kind of novela. It's not like a straight storyline from beginning to end. It's more like, I think it's called an anthology, if I'm not mistaken, where you
Mm.
have a new storyline for every single episode. So, again, a lot of you have probably seen memes and clips from this show because of how corny and cheesy it is. There's this one that I remember though, where it's like this guy, he's like an older gentleman. I think he's a doctor of some sort or something. And then there's like a teenager and he like lights up a joint in front of her and he's like, "What is this?" And she's like, "Marijuana." And he's like, "Okay." And then he lights it like, and she's like trying to play it cool. And then she's like, "Dámelo, dámelo." And she like
Oh my
goes
God.
crazy,
Huh?
which is like
That's crazy.
definitely not that's not an accurate representation of what like it would do, but okay. And they're like freaking out because they're like, "Oh my god, she's addicted to marijuana and this and that." So just stuff like that. But usually in the episode, what will happen is something, there's a conflict of some sort. Somebody will get to a point where the situation is getting really, really bad. And then they eventually learn the lesson. And when they learn the lesson, this light shines down on them and the wind blows in their hair and they feel like they're in the presence of Maria Guadalupe. And usually there's like a rose that appears. And as soon as that happens, they're like, "I understand. Like the lesson is learned." And then everybody's happy at the end of the day. I have definitely seen a few episodes here and there, but there's none that really stick out to me too much. So I don't know if there's anything that you remember from this show, Val.
My grandma used to play this also whenever I worked with families when I was a healthcare provider for children on the autism spectrum. I would go into the family's house and sometimes they would have this on. And it was just so dramatic. I had to just be very neutral, stay composed, but I just wanted to roll my eyes. It's they have good intentions, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of like shame and guilt and like
Yes.
repent. Like
And over
repent and then in
exaggeration
the
too.
end, oh yes, and then at the end you pray and you're like, God, I'm sorry, and then like Mary comes and she fixes things and you're just like, I
Yeah.
will be a good person. It's more of like, I don't know, like like I don't know how to explain it, like your conscious, is that how you would
Your
say it, like
conscience.
that conscious, that voice? Yes, conscience, that's the word. Like listening to your inner voice and like being a good person, and those are really beautiful themes, but it is just so extremely like dramatic. Like on one of the episodes, like this guy is trying to take his life because he finds out that he has HIV, and you're just like, Jesus. And then like they stop him and he gets treatment and he's like, but I can still be a good person and have a good life. And I'm just like, yes, but you didn't, like, it's just so dramatic. It's like so graphic. You're like, oh my God. What else? What else, Jenny? What else about
There's
this?
let me look this up cuz I see something in our notes here
Yeah.
of a specific episode and I'm kind of curious about it cuz I've never seen it, so let me look it up.
I do.
Okay. Sorry about that, friends. For some reason it stopped recording me, but we were just talking about the episode of La Rosa de Guadalupe. I I need to practice my Spanish. And there's apparently an episode where somebody drowns on a pencil eraser. I have not seen that, so if y'all have seen that, definitely let us know what the plot is because I'm very curious. I'm gonna look that up and watch it after this. All right, so do you have any other novelas before I finish up? I have like 3 more. Well, technically 4 more. But do you
No,
have any
I'm
other ones
good.
before I move on? Okay.
No.
So, the next one I want to talk about is Rosario Tijeras. And this one, I guess, does have multiple seasons now. I've only seen the first 2, but it is with, what's her last name? I know her first name is Barbara, and I know I sent you her page before, Val.
Mhm.
Barbara de Regil. And she plays a girl named Rosario who lives in the hood in Mexico City. And she struggles quite a bit. And at first, she starts off the show just being in school. But then as time goes on, just life keeps handing her some unfortunate situations. Excuse me. Life keeps on handing her some unfortunate situations, and then she gets to the point where she starts getting involved with some gang related activity. So there is this guy, or this older man, I should say, who runs a lot of the little shops in the like outdoor flea market area. She ends up killing him because I think trigger warning, I think he rapes her friend. I'm pretty sure that's like how the story goes. And then as time goes on, there's some people who were already, they didn't like him. It's like the opposite gang that didn't like him. So then they see what she did and they start training her to be a hitman. And as time goes on, she gets really, really good. Like her aim is really good. She becomes like one of the best assassins in that area. But the reason for the name of the show is kind of crazy. There is a guy in her neighborhood who's always following her around and being really creepy. And there's one day that she's home alone and he sees that she's home alone, so he goes into her house and he tries raping her. And she defends herself and she grabs a pair of scissors and she stabs him in the balls. So that's why her name is Rosario Tijeras. So yeah, crazy show. That one's also really good. But again, I kind of feel like it's like, ugh, why do they have to, like, the ones that are having the women not be centered around the men and like falling in love and like the men saving them? Why is it that the thing that's saving them is like this really toxic, crazy thing, like being a hitman or like being in the mob? That's the only problem that I
Mm.
have. But aside from that, I think it's a really good show.
Mm. That's cool. Dang, I actually would want to go watch that because I know the actress that you're talking about, and she's also like a really, I don't want to say like an influencer, but she gives like fitness tips. She really cares about food and health and
Yeah,
fitness.
she's
And so
ripped.
she's always, yeah, she's a huge advocate for women's health and lifting, and so I know her through that. So I would totally go watch this novela for her and be like, "All right, girl,
Yeah,
why are you
and it's
stabbing this
fairly
man?"
new. I think the first episode was, or first season was filmed in 2014. So it's fairly
Mm,
new. It's not like as cheesy as a lot of the old 80s, 90s, 2000s ones are. So I would highly recommend that one. I
mm,
did watch La Usurpadora.
mm,
But that one, I honestly can't remember the plot that well. All I remember is that there were 2 women. I think they ended up being twins that were separated at birth. And one of them was the evil twin. And she finds out
mhm,
about her sister and she meets her. Like, it's kind of like a parent trap situation where like she happens to meet her and then she's like, let's switch places. Like, I want to go live my life for a little bit before I get married. And then the good twin ends up falling in love. And again, the main character of the guy and that one is Fernando Colunga. So that one's really
mm,
good. The last one I want to talk about a little bit more in detail is Pasión de Gavilanes. Oh my God, this one is so good. This one is a Colombian one, and I think you can watch it either
mm,
on Netflix or on Hulu. You should definitely watch it, Val. It's in the early 2000s and it is about a woman. Well, it starts off with a woman who falls in love with an older man. And she doesn't
mhm,
realize that this older man is married yet. But then she finds out and he says, I'm going to divorce her. I'm going to leave her. I'm going to buy you a house and like we're going to live happily ever after. Well, then he ends up getting killed and she finds out that he is getting killed, but then she finds out that she's pregnant. So she has to tell her brothers, and her brothers freak out. And then she goes to the family of the man that she was in love with to tell them, and they freak out and they're like, "No, you're lying. You need to get out of here. Like, who do you think you are?" And just like kind of kick her while she's down. So then,
Mhm.
again, trigger warning, she does throw herself off a bridge and she passes away. And then the brothers, they have to identify the body. So then they're pissed off and they're mad and they're like, "We're going to take revenge on this family. They drove her to do this." So then they start going to the family's house. And at first they were going to like, I don't know what they were going to do. I don't know if they were going to yell at them or hurt them or what. But then whenever they get there, somehow they get convinced to not do anything to them. So they start pretending to be construction workers who were going to build a new house on the big ranch. And whenever they are in the process of like pretending to build this house, they fall in love. So there's three brothers, and then the dad, who is the older. Oh, so hold on, let me rewind because I'm getting confusing. So the girl at the very beginning that I mentioned who fell in love with the older man, he has
Mhm.
daughters. He has three daughters, and they're
Mhm.
around the same age as the three brothers. So the three brothers go to take revenge on the family, and then they start falling in love with each of the girls one by one. And
Mm.
that also has a second season, which I didn't really like the second season that much. I feel like it kind of went a little sideways, but it's a really good show. I would highly recommend it. And then it's cool to just see some of the desert landscape in Colombia, because I didn't realize there was desert in Colombia until I watched this show. So yeah, very interesting.
Mm. Dang, 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 I have thoughts. But no, that's definitely like another theme for sure is like los terrenos, like the land of like people fighting for land or like and the will, like for example, like the husband dies and like the wife or the widow is like, "Oh, like finally I get all his money or I get the land," and it's like, ha,
Right.
joke's on you, and it goes to somebody else or it goes to like fill out the blank and it's like the plot
Well, then
twist.
it's funny too because the brothers who go to take revenge eventually, and
Mm-hmm.
this is like the weirdest twist ever, but one of the sons, he like marries this really, really, really old lady. And then I don't know what happens, but like like on accident she dies, like like from old age or something like that. So then he ends up inheriting all her money, and then they end up getting the neighboring ranch. So it's funny because they like fall in love with the girls, and then like the mom's pissed off because these guys are like unruly and like just she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
like them, and then they end up moving in next door, so then it just makes it easier for them to all kind of like get together and like really live happily ever after. So yeah, it's a really good show, and it's very cowboy-esque, like sunsets and like super romantic.
Okay.
Like it's a vibe for sure.
Okay.
So that's like the last one that I wanted to talk about, but I do want to talk a little bit about Jane the Virgin because it's a bit of an
Okay.
Americanized novella. So I'll let you talk. I've been yapping long enough.
So I've actually not watched Jade Virgin. I know Jenny's been suggesting this show for years, and I am just, yes, I don't watch a lot of TV. Like I'll watch animes because they're 20 minutes, dude. I can do 20 minutes of attention span, and then I'm like, okay, I'm over it. Or like I will watch
Have
clips
you
and
at
then come
least seen
back, and then
one episode?
no, I've not. Well, yes, I
What are
have. I
you
watched a few
doing?
clips.
Oh, okay.
I know. I will say this one. I did stick and watch to Grey's Anatomy. That is like the one that I really, really liked. I like Grey's, but I've not watched
Yeah.
Jane Virgin. Yes.
See, I can't do great. Like, I know it's good. I've seen clips of Grey's Anatomy, but like, it's so long. It's so
Yes.
long. I feel like if I started now, I wouldn't be done until like 2040 or something like that. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. So I don't know. You need to watch it. I
Okay.
don't know. It's really good. Okay. So I guess I'll talk about it since you haven't watched it. Maybe this will convince you. So if you haven't watched Jane the Virgin, it is an American English speaking show, and they basically just make fun of telenovelas. And so it starts off with a girl, her name is Jane, and she is a
Mm-hmm.
virgin. And the reason she is a virgin is because she promised her grandma that she was going to wait until marriage to have sex. And there's a lot of Catholic guilt in the show, which they do poke fun at times. And she goes for a routine pap smear checkup. And when she goes in for a pap smear checkup, the doctor who is doing the procedure on her, I don't know if it's considered a procedure. You know what I'm talking about. She is having a really bad day. Like her partner cheated on her, so she was like up all night crying, didn't really get much sleep, and she accidentally swaps rooms or like files of like which rooms she's going to. So one room had a person who was getting artificially inseminated, and then another room had Jane, who was just there for a checkup. So she goes in and she artificially inseminates Jane, and then Jane leaves the room. And Jane doesn't notice like what's going on because she also, for some reason, didn't get much sleep the night before. So she was like kind of half asleep whenever the doctor came in and like said the name. So she missed like the fact that it was the wrong person. So then Jane goes home, and then a few weeks later, she passes out and they take her to the hospital and she finds out that she's pregnant. But it doesn't make sense because she's never had sex in her life before. So that's where the show starts. And then as time goes on, she eventually falls in love with the person who was the sperm of that artificial insemination. And so the main conflict is between the person that she started off with a relationship with and then which guy she needs to choose, basically. What I love
Well,
about this show is that they have Jaime, what's his last name? He's in La Fea Más Bella. Go into my trusty phone.
I don't know.
Jaime, Jane, the Virgin. Jaime Camil. So Jaime
Mm.
Camil plays her dad. And in the show, he is a telenovela star. So Jane doesn't realize, she doesn't know who her father is. So that's one of the main plots, is her finding out that her father is a big novela star that she's been watching for years. And then it's just funny too, because he's very cheesy, like in his, like the actor himself, or so like the person who plays her dad, the character is the telenovela actor. And so he's a very like cheesy character. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Not the actual actor, but
Mhm.
the character who is also an actor, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
So he's a very cheesy guy. And then it's funny because Val will always say this to me, like whenever we're having technical difficulties or I'm having a hard time with like editing and I'm just having like a rough and stressful day, she'll be like, inhale, exhale. And it always reminds me of this character because he'll like look at Jane and he'll be like, inhala, exhala.
Exhala.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just fun. They just talk about a lot of different things that we experience as Hispanics. Like, I remember one episode they talked about like Vicks, like the vape rub, and how like
Mhm.
Hispanic people use that, or just like, I don't know, like a lot of silly things that we go through. So, I really, really like that show, and I feel like it's a good starter for anybody who's never watched a novela and doesn't know if they're gonna like it. Definitely watch that
Mhm.
show because it'll kind of give you an idea of what they will be like and just like how crazy the twists and turns are of the plot lines. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dang.
All
Cool.
right. So, I'll let you take over our last section here, Val, because I feel like I've been talking forever.
Okay, cool. So I guess before we go into that, I think I'm gonna go watch Jane Virgin. I think I'll do it. Jenny's given me a lot of recommendations. One of them that I actually loved is To All the Boys Have Ever Loved, and I like fell in love with that
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch it. But Jane Virgin, I know the episode you're talking about, and I laughed so hard on that episode. So I'm gonna go rewatch it. Grey's Anatomy, because I think it focuses more on the self and the self-development, and you're like, come on, fill in the blank. Their characters are not coming to me right now. But like Yang, like she is one of the doctors and she does like cardiothoracic, so her whole thing is like focusing on cardio and like the heart. But you see that she's like in a relationship and she's choosing between like her career and love, but also like she's like abandoning. Gosh, I can't speak today. Abandoning?
Advancing?
No, not
Oh, abandoning?
abandoning. You guys, English and my Spanish brain are competing. She's abandoning herself for this relationship. And so you're like rooting for her. You're like, no, dude, choose yourself. And then in the end, she does choose herself. So I like stories more that are centered around like the self development or like self growth of the person versus like in Mexican soap operas. I feel like there's like a story and then it's not so much about the self, which kind of does like it does grow, but it's mostly about like the outcome. It's like, well, we want them to have a happily ever after, or we want this person to go to jail. Like, we don't like her. So, like, it's
Mm-hmm.
most about like the outcome versus like being invested in the character development. So, I think that's
I
kind of
see.
like the stories that I like, but I think that's like all the 2 cents that I had. Conscious Comadres through a lens. What did novelas teach us? Well, a lot. One
To
of
be
the ones
tóxicas.
that I know. Love is pain. I don't think that love is pain. I think love should be calm and easy and it should regulate your nervous system. I feel like I know this as a psychologist, but your partner should not give you anxiety. You should not be scared to go home or you should not be scared to like tell your
They should
partner
feel like
something or
home.
yes, it should feel like home. So love is pain. Definitely a novella toxic quality. I think so. Drama is passion. No. I don't know. What do you think, Jenny? What do you think?
I feel like, okay, this is what I'm saying, or I'm seeing, I should say. I feel like these things at one point did teach me those messages, but as I've gotten older, I've undone those messages because they were not good for me. Because I
Mm-hmm.
have been in toxic relationships in the past where I thought that just because the person I was with was jealous or just because he was argumentative and like toxic meant that he was fighting for our relationship. And I agree. I think that a healthy relationship should feel like coming home. It should feel like the place where you rest and it should feel like the place where you can be your complete self. And it should involve conversations that might be uncomfortable, but they should never be scary and they should never make you
Mm-hmm.
fear your partner. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I've had to unlearn. And it's not just novelas that taught me that. I think that's something that I just learned with seeing the relationships that were around me in
Mm-hmm.
different people that were in my life. So definitely I had to unlearn that. That's pretty much all I had about that.
Jealousy is romance. I feel like Jenny kind of just touched on this, but like I personally want a partner that chooses me for myself and for who I am, not like, well, you should do this or you should, you should wear this or like, you know what? It's like, well, if that's what you want and that's what you're looking for, by all means, like bye. Like and it's the same way, like I choose my person because they are who they are, not for who I want them to be. So yeah, that one definitely not it. Suffering is noble. Oh my gosh, Maria la del Barrio and that Maria Marimar, they suffered so much. Suffering is noble. I think it's good to be kind. I think it's good to be humble, but I don't think suffering is what's that thing of like being a martyr. It's like you don't have to be a martyr,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I think a lot
Yes.
of it is Catholic guilt too, because
Mm,
I feel like, yes, you can be humble, but I don't think that it's
mm-hmm.
bad to also be confident. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember growing up, and mom, if you're listening, I love you. I love you so much. I really do. But I think that this is a message that I grew up with was that just because somebody is confident means that they're conceited.
Or stuck
And
up.
I think that's something, yes. And I think that's something that I've had to unlearn. And my mom has also unlearned. Like we've both seen people in our lives who are confident that aren't conceited. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like reminding ourselves that there are different things that can exist at the same time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like bash on yourself to be a humble person. You can be a humble person, but also be confident in your worth and who you are as a person, as a human being. So that's honestly, that's what I would say in regards to that specific topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just like oh, she's so full of herself. I think Oprah has like a good one, like, oh, she's so full of herself. And it's like, well, yeah, like who should I be filled with? Like who else? It's like if anyone, like,
I am
yes,
me.
duh. Like, who are you full of? Like, are you full of like somebody else or something? Like, you should be full of
Yeah.
yourself. Like, you should pour into yourself. So, yes, yes, I
Yeah.
agree, Jenny, yes. Okay, so here are the positives. Jenny, I love you. We can have passion without chaos. Yes. We can have love without fear, yes. And we can have faith without self-betrayal. I love this. Oh, Jenny, that made me so happy. Yes, yes.
I agree. I think that's something that we can open our minds up about a little bit more. And again, just remind ourselves like, just because you grew up with a specific way of thinking when it comes to self confidence or when it comes to how you view relationships and so on and so forth, you know, a lot of the things that these toxic tropes have taught us doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly how we have to move forward. And also, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that if we're going in a different direction, it doesn't have to be complete opposite of that. Because I think that's very common in the Hispanic community where it's like, for example, let's look at, I don't know, I guess we could talk about that confidence thing, like versus confidence versus humility. It's like, oh, well, you either have to be on one extreme where you are conceited or you have to be on the other extreme where you are, like you said, a martyr. It's like there's somewhere in the middle that we can live. Like it's not black and white. There's multiple ways that we can
Mm-hmm.
exist when it comes to all these different things that we just talked about and all these tropes that we hear about in telenovelas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. We do have, if we're ready, Jen, you can give me the thumbs up. But closing questions for you guys. The first one, and I'm so glad that Jenny did this.
Wait,
Which novela raised you? Are we there yet or no?
no, I was gonna say, did you want to talk about the funny bits too?
Oh my
I mean, I
gosh.
feel like
Oh
we
my
talked about a
gosh.
few things, a few
Okay.
tropes.
Brace
Like we
yourself,
talked about the
people.
slapping.
Yeah.
We talked about the poor girl, rich man trope.
Mm-hmm.
We forgot to mention amnesia. That's a common one that
Oh my
happens in
gosh.
these
Yeah.
novelas. Evil women always in red or red lipstick. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
100%. People hiding behind plants. I didn't realize that was a thing, but yeah, I guess that does happen a lot. We talked about the cousins in love thing, which is weird.
Yes.
And then I was telling Val about this novela that my coworker that I mentioned at the very beginning of this episode was telling me about, and I can't remember the name of it. But she was telling me about this one where like this girl falls in love with this guy, and whenever they're having relations, she finds out she like has flashbacks and she realizes that he was her rapist, but then she like falls in love with him anyways. It's like really weird. And I'm like, why is this? Why was this written in? I don't know. It's just crazy. So funny and weird things about novelas for sure. I was also going to say a little side note. If you like telenovelas, you probably like Hallmark movies too. They're definitely not as crazy with the drama and the twists and turns, but they're very
Mm-hmm.
predictable. So I'm curious if y'all feel the same way. Let me know if you guys like Hallmark movies as well. That being said, let's move on to our closing thoughts, Val.
Let's do it. Okay. Okay, question time, you guys. Like it's a quiz. Just kidding. Which
Pop quiz.
novela? Pop quiz time. um, which novela raised you and what did it teach you about love? I think Marimar. Marimar has my heart. I think that one had like a really pretty, like kind of fairy tale princess ending, but also I just really connect to that one. Also, like the landscape, the scenery, like it kind of takes me back to like living in a different part of the world. So to me, it's that one, but I don't know. I'm interested to see which one you guys pick. La Rosa. Did La Rosa make you think you had to suffer to be worthy? That one for sure. I was like, God is punishing me. I literally had that thought whenever
Yeah.
I would or when something bad would happen to me. I'm like, it's because it's karma. God is punishing me. Like I'm being
Yeah.
punished. And then also kind of being like, no, like it's not that way. But no, I don't know what you guys think. Just that, yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes I
I feel
watch
like
it for
that's
shock
something I had
value.
to unlearn too because I grew up with that mentality a lot. Like I remember thinking that there were certain things that happened to me and I would just be like, "Why, God? Why? Like what did I do?" And now I'm older and I'm just like, "You know what? Like either I'm learning a lesson that's really important for me to learn and it's
Mhm.
going to give me wisdom or honestly just shit happens." Like that's part of
Mhm.
life. Unfortunately, bad things happen to good people sometimes, and all we can do is move forward and do our best. And if there is something to learn from it, take it. If there isn't, just do your best in moving forward. Easier said than done, but that's truly how I feel. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So actually that mindset and reframing, I feel like helped me out a lot because when it was like the Catholic guilt, it was like so self-centered. It's like, why is God punishing me? Why am I being punished? For example, like let's say I got a flat tire, and it was like I'm being punished versus like plenty of people get flat tires about. Like you're not the only one. Like calm down, you're not special, dude. Like God didn't just come down and was like, ha ha ha, like you're gonna be punished today. And it's like also this is a great opportunity for you to learn how to change a tire. Did you think of that? Did you think that maybe
yeah.
this will happen in the future? And maybe if you learn it now, you'll learn how to fix it later, Val. Or like fill in the blank. So it was kind of like there's a lesson and maybe God wants me to learn a lesson, but I'm not being punished.
Right.
So instead of like that self-martyrism of like I'm always the one. Something always happens to me. I'm like, dang, I'm always learning. Like God is always like helping me learn. Okay, thank you, Jesus. So
Yeah.
that's how I
Or
flip
like the
that.
burnt toast theory. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay,
What
you'll
is that?
you'll know what I'm talking about as soon as I say it, but it's the idea, it's like whenever you burn your toast in the morning, you're like, "Oh, I got to put in a new toast and it's going to make me late and like now I'm not going to be able to do this, this and this," and you're like freaking out cuz your whole day is thrown off. Well, maybe the reason why you burned your toast that morning is because if you had gotten in the car at like on time, you might have gotten in an accident or you might have
Mm,
like broken your ankle or like some crazy thing like that. And it's
mm-hmm.
like sometimes these things that happen to us that we don't know are happening, like there's no reason, but it's like a negative thing. Maybe it's because you were not meant to be in the place that you were originally wanting to be and God was protecting you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That reminds me. There's like a little short clip and it's like a guardian angel and like he's hiding in like plain sight and this guy's going to cross the street and this guy just pushes him and all of a sudden like a bus like goes straight through or like he's like the asshole but like in real life he was saving him and it's just like sometimes things
Yeah.
are really just working out for you.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, reasons to watch novelas because it's nostalgia and it's healing and just shock value.
And it's
For me,
funny
I'm just
too.
like,
I think it's just funny to like look at that and be like, wow, that would never happen, but I'm gonna keep eating my popcorn.
yeah,
It is
yeah,
funny.
yeah. All right, Jenny. I don't have any more thoughts.
I don't think so. I said as I said a lot of things. Let us know what your favorite novela is and if there's
Mm-hmm.
anything that you want us to watch because I am always looking to brush up on my Spanish. Yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys.
Yeah, that's it. So you guys just, tune in, leave your comments. We enjoy reading them. Actually, we really enjoy getting comments because it's like they're watching or like you guys will have some weird, crazy thoughts and I'm like, wow, okay. So do it for the shock value. I'm like, just be
Yeah.
like, just go off, queen. Just tell us how you really feel. Yeah, we're like, okay. It's a lot of feelings.
Yes. Yeah. No, we love to hear what you
Okay.
guys think
Hmm.
and if there's stuff that you have that's in relation to the topic that we're talking about, we love to talk about it. So, yeah. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us. And as always, we will see you next time.
We will see you later. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.